Well, hello. It's about 11:35 on this Tuesday, March 12th, 2013. I'm Stephen Boyle, student forecaster for Northeast Weather Center. Well, this evening there's not a lot going on. We do have some exiting rains going on right now. There's some continual rains going on up into parts of Maine. Also, some winter weather advisories into parts of PA and West Virginia. That's because of some potential bands that could be setting up here, and the potential is there for some of the ridge tops to pick up around 3 to 6 inches, maybe locally around 8. But for the most part, it's not going to be anything major. Now, we do have flood watches and warnings out there. That was because of the rain that passed through today. This gave some places up close to an inch, around an inch, if not over an inch, in many spots. And again, these watches and warnings should diminish as we work our way through tomorrow. The warnings may stick around, but the watches should be expiring fairly shortly here. So basically, let's just first of all check out the advisories here, the winter weather advisory that we have in effect. And basically, some of these areas could be picking up 2 to possibly up to 6 inches. And again, locally in some of your highest mountains, maybe close to 8 inches. But these would be in your highest ridge tops. But for the most part, 4 to 6 with 1 to 2 once you get outside of those ridge tops, and then less than an inch through Pittsburgh and areas that are in your lower elevations. So for the most part, not a major event here, just a minor event, possibly some upsloping with some possibly some upslope snow showers adding to those snowfall amounts. So these are for folks who live down in Pennsylvania and West Virginia. 4 to 6 inches again into the mountains of Pennsylvania, possibly 2 to 3 inches in a good widespread area, and then you can see away from there less than an inch of snow and no snow in the Susquehanna River Valley. That would be including York and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So for right now, don't expect a lot. And for that's generally the basic idea of how everything is going to be going through Thursday. Not much going on through Thursday. And again, these flood watches that we have across New England. We'll first start out with this. This is until 8 a.m. tomorrow, so this will be expiring fairly shortly here. Don't expect much in the way of flooding here if you haven't already flooded, because the rain is yet again all over with. Here is the current radar imagery, and you can see still some continuing rains going on out into the Cape and the islands, and you can see also rain continuing in Maine right now, but all of this is moving eastward, so eventually this will be moving out, and everybody should be experiencing some fairly nice conditions if you live in the Northeast tomorrow. However, there could be some clouds and maybe a few showers or snow showers from an upper level disturbance, but for the most part, things should be doing all right. So let's just look at the models here, and I know yesterday when I put out my forecast, models were sort of all over the place as far as the next week's storm goes. Things are starting to come together here, and it looks like we will be talking about a storm system for the Northeast. And if you live north of New York City, it looks like you're in fair game for some potential accumulating snows. Maybe not a major event, but definitely something that could produce some accumulations. First event starts entering the United States on Friday, and you can see that we get a widespread swath of snow going through the Dakotas and up into Montana. This should start working its way down, and this will eventually affect our region. with some snows. You can see here is again, for the most part, these would be for folks who live north of I-90 in Ohio. Basically, this would be mainly affecting people in Michigan with some snow. Also, people who live in PA and also New York as well. Those are the folks who would be getting snow with this clipper system. There could be some heavy rains down into parts of into portions of Indiana and Ohio as well, extreme western portions of the region. But for the most part, this is not going to be a very heavy event. But there could be a period, again, with clipper systems, you can sometimes get a very quick drop in quick dropping of 1 to 3 inches of snow, and it's very quick and it's very intense. So we'll have to sort of watch out for that. That's the NAM. Let's look at the Canadian. So looking at the Canadian here, this is a 12Z Canadian, and you can see there is those rains that move through. You can see things are calming down for tomorrow. There could be a few scattered rain or snow showers coming in through the northeast through really Thursday, but nothing major. I mean, I wouldn't expect a washout or anything. Definitely nothing like what we saw today. And again, the Canadian is a little bit more north with this clipper system, but for the most part, I think generally, I think the way that this system is probably going to be centered somewhere around here instead of here. But for the most part, I think we'll have a low pressure somewhere in here, and that 540 line will probably be centered somewhat like this. And folks who live basically along in southern New England, central New England, also if you go through New York, and also even maybe into Ohio and Pennsylvania, you may get into some of this snowfall action. We'll have to sort of see what happens with that, but it looks pretty good as far as that goes. And then here comes our next storm system. You can see it starts entering into the area on Sunday evening, and the Canadian is a little earlier with this. It actually has the beginnings of this precip coming in here Monday morning, while other models are suggesting most likely not. But again, we'll have to sort of see what happens with that. That's again the Canadian. Let's look at the JMA. And the JMA puts out a fairly interesting something fairly interesting. And again, here's that, whoops, I meant to do that. So we have this low pressure system moving like this, and it does spread a swath of snow for the New England area, and also down into portions of PA and New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts. We'll have to sort of see what happens with that. But again, the more south it is, well, the bulk of precip will be further south, obviously. But again, we'll have to sort of keep our eyes on that. And then, of course, we have another system. And again, this is the one that we're really keeping an eye on, because this could really cause some significant issues. The Canadian, or excuse me, the JMA has it further to the south, therefore not affecting the major cities much, but it has a major rainstorm for people down into Virginia and North Carolina. The question is are these two systems going to phase together and produce a very major system for the Northeast? That is the major question right now, and the JMA is suggesting no. They're really going to be two separate systems. This one moves into Canada and up into Canada, and then this one is going to just move out to sea like this and basically not do much for anybody. But again, we'll have to sort of see. It's still quite far out, so there's still time for things to update. Now looking at the GFS, actually let's look at the rapid update here of the 0Z, because the last time I looked at it, it was still off on its own thing. Again, if this isn't doing really anything, if it's still not good enough, yeah, it's only up to hour 42, so this is useless to look at. So let's just look at the regular GFS here. This is the 18Z GFS, and basically this is this is our storm. Basically, this is at 7 p.m. You can see there's those rains. Actually, the models were initialized a little bit beforehand. Most of this precip at 7 p.m. was actually right in here. So, but for the most part, pretty accurate. That moves out, and and then again, we could see some scattered rain or snow showers coming in through the whole region. And again, there is that clipper system, and again, the GFS is a little bit interesting here. Brings in a little bit more of an intense, brings in more of a clipper system and a more intense event for people who live in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and basically people who live, I would say, south of I-76, or even I-78. Get mainly warmer air, and if you do have any precip, it would be mainly rain. So for the most part, it doesn't look good if you live south of there. And then of course you can see as we get into the later on into the day, you can see maybe some light snow showers. But for the most part, I would say if you live generally south of this particular line, generally south of I-78, doesn't matter if you have the 540 line there. No, basically, I think all these people would be dealing with rain and snow showers to the north of that. And then, of course, that moves out, and then, of course, here comes our next system, and basically what ends up happening, basically what most of the models are suggesting right now is we have a low here, and we have a little bit of a transfer of energy, a little bit, not a major, but a transfer of energy. This moves in this direction. This eventually moves in this direction. You can see it moves almost into the 40-70 benchmark area. So we have a low here, a low trying to form somewhere in here. So therefore, this creates a snow event for people who live into the interior sections of the Northeast. So these would be including, these would be including Northeast Pennsylvania, going in through portions of Connecticut, northern New Jersey, then going up in through New Hampshire, Maine, and then, of course, into Vermont and New Hampshire, and also the Hudson River Valley. So basically, this is where the highest probability of any snow would be. Coastal areas, it's going to be tough because, again, we have that onshore flow coming in here, and also you have, it's March, so what do you expect? And again, this does actually eventually show a more clearly defined secondary trying to form right here. So you can see there's two lows right in here, and you can see there is some snow actually going all the way out into Boston. So we'll have to sort of keep our eyes on this. This could definitely be a moderate snowstorm for interior sections of the Northeast. So this would be including Northeast Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, northern Connecticut, interior Massachusetts, going on up in through southern Maine, and then also, of course, northern Maine and northern Vermont and New Hampshire and northern New York would definitely be seeing all snow with this. But these folks definitely could be seeing some good snows. But again, we'll have to sort of keep our eyes on that as we move our way through, or work our way through the period. Right now, it looks like we'll be talking about a major rainstorm sometime around not this Friday, but the following Friday. But again, this is pretty far out. We're talking like 240 hours out. And again, that moves out, and then of course we get another impending shot of colder air. And some of the models are trying to indicate, hey, maybe out towards the 27th or something, we could be talking about another storm. But by this time, we're really talking about a warm influx of warm air, because we have an area of high pressure here. We're having really warm air impeding through the midsection of the country, and our trough here in the east is really getting restricted because of it. So we're going to have to really keep our eyes on that major ridge, and if this starts moving eastward as we get later on into the month, if this moves eastward, then guess what? We'll be talking about some very warm stuff here for the Northeast and New England. So we'll have to kind of keep our eyes on that. But again, this is a GFS. We still have one more model to go with, which is the Euro. So here we go. Here's a Euro. This is a 12Z, and basically there's our rains. Those move out. We get some possible scattered snow showers. And here we go. Here is that clipper system, and the Euro is painting a picture of maybe many areas, especially if you live along and north of a line, we'll say along the, we'll say anywhere from really Meriden, Connecticut through Providence, Rhode Island through maybe areas just south of Poughkeepsie, New York, northward, maybe a light to moderate snow event, maybe up to 1 to 3 inches, maybe locally higher amounts, but for the most part 1 to 3 inches. That moves out, and then we have this little system that we're contending with. This is again the system that we're watching out for, and the Euro is really painting an interesting picture now. It actually has the QPF shield weakening as this moves northward. Don't think it would weaken as it moves northward, especially as it goes offshore, just because of how things would be. Oh man, sorry about that. Just because of how things would be working out, but it does have the low pressure center centered right on the 4070. So basically, this would be good news for people who enjoy the snow and who live in the Northeast. Also, we're talking about another low back in here, which this would be producing snows for people who live in Ohio and who live into the Great Lakes. So it would be really good for if you're a snow lover from Ohio and the Great Lakes, and you're a snow lover from the Northeast. Good news if the Euro verified, because you have a low here, a low here. This produces snow here, and then this produces snow here. Now we still have to get this secondary low out. So basically, the Euro is suggesting, hey, as these two lows come closer together, we may be talking about some good some additional snows as well, as these two lows kind of come closer and their energy sign kind of becomes more combined here. So we're going to have to kind of keep our eyes on this. This could potentially become something a little bit more major and something a little bit more to talk about. And then later on, we talk about this little system, and this is really where the GFS and the Euro are totally off. All right, or totally diverged. The Euro is taking our second system out to sea like this, not even it going up. And the GFS, let's just sort of show you here. Okay, let's look at the GFS and then let's look at the Euro. Two completely different pitches. So here's what the we'll do here. This is what the Euro is showing. This is what the GFS is showing. Very different. Very different. We can even, let's just show you the 12Z, okay, because those will be the same initialized times. All right, so this is 240. Notice how it is completely different, okay? You have your main low pressure here. Okay, you have your main low pressure here. You have a secondary trying to form here, and this is really kind of moving in this direction. However, we have a nice warm influx of warm air here. We have kind of a little bit of a frontal system right in here. Okay, but the Euro is completely different. Notice how it brings it more. The GFS has it more amplified, but it has it kind of cutting through the Great Lakes and cutting through the Great Lakes and cutting through the Appalachians eventually, to where the Euro, it takes this storm south of the Great Lakes and it actually eventually cuts it out to sea. Really, it doesn't even really affect areas in New England according to the Euro. We have our low pressure system here. It's south of the 4070 benchmark. So therefore, this would not be a rain or snow event for people who live in the Northeast. This is something that we got to watch, because whether this moves more northward or southward, and not only that, but if we get more of a system like this, then this would be a major rainstorm compared to something like this, which would suggest to me that people would have, if the Euro was correct, we would have to watch out for people who live in the Northeast, because that would mean a possible another major snowstorm. It's a tricky situation. The GFS and the Euro have been really divergent lately, and they are not in good agreement. They're just starting to come into good agreement with our system coming in here for next week. Notice how this is the euro at hour 156, and notice how the GFS is somewhat similar. Somewhat similar. So that is very good news. The 12Z GFS really pummels southern New England and the Mid Atlantic with some good snows. So if that comes into verification, we could be talking about some good snow, a good snowstorm. However, they're just starting to come into agreement on that. So there's still quite a ways away for this particular storm. And notice how it is really a lot different. So we have to really keep our eyes on it. And it has to all do with the block, and that's up in Canada. That is really what that's really what it all comes down to. Is that blocking in Canada going to be very strong? If it isn't, then yes, we would be talking a little bit more about a situation like this, and it would allow the system to cut in through the Great Lakes. However, if this blocking is any more stronger, then guess what? We would have a system that would cut up through the coast, and that would create more of a snowier solution rather than a rainier solution. So there's still quite a bit to look at. There's still a lot to indulge in as we get over the next several days, and it will be a stormy period, no doubt about it. However, is it going to be snowy? That's yet to be seen. We do know that this weekend we do have a system that will be bringing at least some snow into the Northeast, and then of course we have another system next week which has a very good shot of bringing moderate to potentially major snowfall accumulations towards the Northeast and particularly southern New England. Also, Michigan and the Great Lakes could even be getting into some of that as well. So that is where we're at right now. But again, I am going to wait to put out some maps here on that because again, there's still a little bit of model divergency on this upcoming storm next week. But again, tomorrow most likely we'll start putting out a map on that because again, I'm starting to see some very similar, very similar solutions here. So we'll see what happens. We'll update you tomorrow, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. And I'll be back tomorrow with another update. Take care, everyone.